Hello, hello, Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup. It is Monday, May 20th, the year 2024. Hold on, do you know what it means? I just got an important email as I was going live, so apologies. Lot going on. I haven't really been live that much recently because we've been live so much. When I say we, let me rephrase. John Farina has been live so much for us. Over 50 protests he has covered over the last 6 months, 7 months. So I feel that has been way more important than me going live from my studio here. But glad to be live with you. A lot to discuss, a lot going on in Status Coup land. I'll wait till we have a couple more viewers on before getting into details of a fundraiser that we've started. Very, very important fundraiser because right now times are tough. Times are definitely tough. So we definitely need some help, which I'll explain a little bit later. But a lot going on in the United Corporations of America, a lot going on in the global world, particularly genocide funded by the United States, and then the United States trying to cancel the international criminal forums that are now declaring genocide. So we'll get into all that. But just for a moment, let's take a break. Let's take a pause. I'm pretty damn proud of how much we have accomplished here. Little old Status Coup, covering over 50 protests in New York, in DC, in LA, on no budget. We don't have, Jeffrey Katzenberg giving us $20 million like my former employer got at the Young Turks. We do not have a Koch brother giving us money. We do not have a massive Democratic Party donor, Republican Party donor. It's you, it's Joe and Jane supporting us. And we've been able to cover over 50. By the way, a lot of people think that doesn't cost us anything. It costs us a lot of money to broadcast, not only paying John, which we're happy to do, but we have a data plan that we pay already $500 a month, and we have blown past our data plan because John likes to stream 3 to 4 hours live in a row. And I tell him, John, get a fucking life. Go on a date or something. You don't need to be live 4 hours, but he wants to be live 4 hours, and we've gone over our data plan. So, Colin, what was it? 2 months ago, we got charged like $1,000 over?
Yeah, $1,000. And then we adjusted our data plan to hopefully encapsulate all that data, and then we did our record data right after we did that.
Are you a dinosaur or just in your
That's
underwear?
Godzilla.
Oh, Godzilla. Okay.
Set up my camera yet. We moved into a place, and it's a little
right.
at the moment.
Yes, Colin's been moving too. So we've been able to do that. I'm also proud we were able to make a badass documentary, which we are now submitting to film festivals. Ty, God bless him, did a whole new brand, not a whole new, but did some fine tuning, so it looks a lot better. We added a couple things, so we're submitting that to film festivals. That cost us over $5,000. We've had a lot of expenses, which I'll get to later. But sometimes you got to just stop because we're pumping out so much content and say, what other outlet is doing us? What other corporate outlet or independent outlet is doing the amount we do? There is no other outlet that has covered the amount of protests we've covered in the rain, in the cold, in New York, in DC, in LA. John has been out there sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning. There is no other outlet even covering Flint anymore, much less doing a full-length documentary. And reminder, my book will be out in August, and we'll have more announcements about that soon. I'm trying to put together some book events. So once I have the events set up, hopefully you guys can make it if it's, within driving distance to you. So we'll get to all that later, but I got to start, obviously, major news that the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants. Obviously, they would need to be approved by, international judges. But pretty historic, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Hamas leaders, as well as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Let's watch this clip. The head of the ICC announcing it.
We're here at the ICC. You are today announcing that you are applying for arrest warrants for top military and political leadership in the Israel-Gaza war since the October 7th events. First and foremost, explain to me exactly what you're asking for and who you are charging.
Today, Christian, we've applied for warrants to the pretrial chamber of the International Criminal Court in relation to 3 individuals that are Hamas members. Sinwar, who's in charge on the ground.
That's Yahya Sinwar?
Absolutely. Dave, who's in charge of the Al-Qasim Brigade. And Hania, who's one of their political bureau based in Doha.
What are the charges?
The charges are extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape and sexual assault in detention. So these are the key crimes that are alleged to have been committed by these 3 individuals. The world was shocked on the 7th of October when people were ripped from their bedrooms, from their homes, from the different kibbutzim in Israel. And people have suffered enormously. And we have a variety of evidence to support the applications that we've submitted to the judges.
You have also issued warrants against the top political and military leadership of the government of the State of Israel.
We've applied for warrants. Of course, the judges must determine whether or not to issue them, but we've applied today, we'll apply for warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and also Minister of Defense Gallant for crimes of causing extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, including the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, deliberately targeting civilians in conflict.
So that is the head of the ICC. By the way, I mean, although it is good that we have an international criminal court that they can issue arrest warrants. I mean, there's been an ICC arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, I think, for many years. So, Netanyahu is not going to prison, or the Hamas leaders are not going to prison due to these arrest warrants. When you think of arrest warrants, I think Law and Order, and then the cops are coming in and they're arresting you. It's not actually going to happen here, but war criminals should be, issued arrest warrants. And if we had a sensible international criminal system, and it wasn't all corrupt, which I'm about to get to, explaining the corruption, there would be international agents coming into Netanyahu's office right now and yanking him, including Hamas, by the way, the Hamas leaders, if they could find them. So, couple things. Number one, this is really extraordinary, because even though the ICC is technically independent, there is most entities are not truly independent. Just like, the Attorney General of the United States is not really independent from the White House, just like Attorney Generals in states are not fully independent from the governors of those states. Everything internationally is interconnected. The ICC does not do things without weighing the connections to, the United States, which is the world superpower and the bully of the world. They might technically be independent, but they don't do these things without knowing this could cause a lot of problems, which we're already seeing, not just Republicans, but Democrats in Congress calling for sanctions, not on Israel, on the ICC. You can't make it up. In the United Corporations of America, you got Republicans and Democrats right now. They're calling to sanction the ICC for issuing arrest warrants on the war criminal. So it's kind of like, imprisoning. It's like criminalizing the victims, as I've been covering in Flint, because people in Flint went to jail, and people, residents of Flint who were poisoned, they were thrown in jail. It's like that. Let's criminalize the actual people going after the war criminals. It's unbelievable. Perhaps unsurprisingly, and smash that like button, share this live stream. We got 170 watching now. We got to get that number up. Every single person press the like button. Thank you so much for the gifted membership. Tony just gifted a membership. We'll get into membership in a little bit because super, super important that we grow our membership. Actually crucial to us keeping the lights on right now. But perhaps unsurprisingly, Biden, who said it was a red line for him, Israel invading Rafah, and that he would not support it, we would cut weapons. Well, he did pause weapons for about 5 minutes. And then, as I've been telling you for months, the real reason Biden is funding this genocide, it's not because he's a Zionist. It's because his donors, we live in the United Corporations of America, and some of his biggest donors to his presidential campaign and Democratic senator campaigns and Democratic congressman campaigns and the DNC and the governor's races are major super duper billionaire Zionist Jewish people. That ain't anti-Semitic. A, I'm Jewish, but B, it's not anti-Semitic. It's the truth. Some of the wealthiest donors in America that bankroll the Democratic and Republican Party, i.e. have hijacked our representative democracy and just stolen our government. They've purchased it. I mean, Sheldon Adelson, when he was alive, literally all the Republicans, if they wanted to run for president, they had to go to something called the Republican Jewish Conference. It was in Vegas for a couple of years. The Republican Jewish Coalition. It was a weekend thing at one of Adelson's hotel's casinos, and they had to go kiss Sheldon Adelson's ring because he was the billionaire Jewish Zionist buying off Republican politicians and funding their campaigns. You know, I had to tell my father, who's a major super duper Zionist and loves Trump, because Trump moved the embassy in Israel, the U.S. embassy in Israel, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. I had to tell him, hey, Larry, love you. But Trump didn't do it because he's a friend of Israel. He did it because Sheldon Adelson gave him $30 million for his campaign with the demand, if you become president, you move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. $30 million he spent to get a building moved. America. So literally, you got Biden, even though he said it's a red line and I won't support it, he reversed himself on that after his donors went nuts that we paused sending weapons to Israel so that they could slaughter innocent Palestinians. He reversed himself on that, and now he's denouncing the outrageous implications of the ICC issuing arrest warrants for Netanyahu. Let's read this from CNN. The Biden administration on Monday forcefully denounced efforts by the International Criminal Court to seek warrants for top Israeli officials and Hamas leaders, saying the court's efforts put the terrorist organization and a top U.S. ally on equivalent footing. Of course, that's a red herring and complete bullshit, but that's another story. In a statement on Monday, Biden called the ICC efforts, quote, outrageous. Quote, let me be clear. Whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. Khan's pursuit of the warrant gave Biden, a longtime supporter of Israel and its right to exist, a chance to speak strongly in favor of the U.S.'s top Middle Eastern ally at a time of tense relations, blah, blah, blah. Khan, the ICC prosecutor, batted down criticisms over the tribunal's efforts to secure the warrants. No one is above the law, he told Amanpour. Neither the U.S. nor Israel are members of the ICC. Palestinians aren't either, because technically they don't have a state. But if the court were to grant an arrest warrant to Netanyahu or Gallant, the decision would make it extremely difficult for either Israeli leader to travel to any of the 124 countries that are party to the court's laws, including top U.S. allies like Britain and Germany. News that the ICC is seeking warrants for the Israeli leaders sent reverberations of condemnation across the world. Close U.S. allies like Britain said the court's efforts were, quote, not helpful. Yeah, it's just not helpful when you kind of hold accountable that war criminal in Israel. That's not helpful in reaching a pause in fighting. You know what would be helpful in reaching a pause in fighting? Colin, you know what would be helpful in reaching a pause in fighting? I don't know. If Biden actually kept his word and pulled funding from Israel after it invaded Rafah, that is what he said. That was his red line. Well, apparently it wasn't bright red because he reversed himself after 5 minutes. I know you can't show yourself right now because your camera's not ready, but wouldn't that help stop the fighting if we stopped supplying the weapons?
Yeah, I think if I had a choice between the Netanyahu being held accountable and Biden after the invasion of Rafah giving up $1 billion in weapons to Israel, I would think the $1 billion in weapons is worsening the relationship, not helping, versus the just holding a war criminal accountable. But that could just be me.
Yes, agreed. I found, I'll speed through this. I found this very interesting. The ICC prosecutor is right to take these actions, Bernie Sanders said in a statement, adding it's imperative that the global community uphold international law. The condemnation of the ICC's efforts put the U.S. in a delicate position. The United States is supporting a separate effort by the ICC to document and investigate Russian war crimes related to its continued operations in Ukraine. Kirby said the U.S. would continue to support those efforts. Quote, I would remind everybody that it is an actual war aim of Mr. Putin to kill innocent Ukrainian people, Kirby told reporters on Monday. I mean, he's deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure with the aim of killing innocent civilians. That is not what the IDF is doing. I mean, that statement, either he is a moron, which he's not, or he is morally bankrupt. There have been so much reporting, even by CNN of all places, indicating that the IDF knowingly bombed or dropped missiles, 2,000-pound bombs. By the way, even the U.S. does not drop beyond 500-pound bombs, which is not exactly, anything to brag about. You shouldn't drop 500-pound bombs that could kill a lot of innocent people either. But there has been reporting, there has been even whistleblowers in Israel that Israel and the IDF from Netanyahu's command have gone after civilian targets, knowing that to take out, that one Hamas leader that they were looking to take out, that potentially 100 people were going to die, 100 innocent civilians, and they went forward anyway. So spare me that they have not intentionally killed innocent people. You are intentionally killing innocent people. Your stated aim, or maybe in their mind, their aim is that 1 or 2 Hamas commandos. But when you are making the calculated decision that 100 innocent Palestinians, most of whom are women and children, by the way, are acceptable collateral damage, that is intentionally targeting innocent civilians. It's not different from what Russia is doing. And remember, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, oh my God, all these politicians wearing the Ukraine buttons all over in suburbia. I don't know about you. I drove through suburbia. I saw Ukrainian flags. There is no difference between what Russia has done and targeting innocent civilians in Ukraine and what Israel is doing. None. And there have been, I think it's 972 magazine, which has done great reporting on this. They have exposed that the IDF has intentionally and knowingly taken out whole buildings, whole apartment buildings where, dozens and dozens and dozens of Palestinians live, looking for one person. That is intentionally going after innocent people. I don't know what's more corrupt, the fact that there is no enforcement mechanism to actually haul Netanyahu in and Hamas, or that you have Biden and both parties, crying crocodile tears and fake outrage. Sanction the ICC for how dare them go after Israel. You think it has anything to do with, again, the Zionist Jewish billionaires funding them? And I'm saying this is a Jewish person. And I'm not out there. No, this is not like, oh, the Jews run Hollywood. We're not saying that. All that shit is anti-Semitic and is crazy town. So if that's where your mindset is, that's not what I believe. But the bottom line is follow the money. And if it goes to the Jews, follow it there. If it goes to the Christians, follow it there. If it goes to the atheists, follow it there. If it goes to the agnostics, follow it there. If it goes to the Buddhists, the Indians, I don't care. Follow the fucking money. And the money is, it's not a coincidence. Colin, if you have the article, I put it in the sheet. Haim Saban, or Haim Saban, probably mispronouncing it. He is one of the creme de la creme of Democratic Party donors. This is from Axios. And he was fuming after Biden paused aid for all of 5 minutes in weapons. This is the letter he sent to Steve Buscemi, who's one of Biden's top aides forever and ever, bigwig in the White House, and Anita Dunn, senior advisor. Can you please share with the president, dear President Biden, we, the U.S., as you stated numerous times, believe that Hamas should be defeated. We, all caps, the U.S., in this case, you, Mr. President, might as well have just said, you, my employee, because Biden works for the donors, just like Trump works for the donors, have decided to stop sending munitions to Israel to achieve the goal that you have set up for Israel and ourselves. Even beyond Israel, this sends a terrible message to our allies in the region. And beyond that, we could flip from doing the right thing to bending to political pressure. Let's not forget that there are more Jewish voters who care about Israel than Muslim voters that care about Hamas. Translated, fuck those brown people. Bad, bad, bad. Decisions on all levels. Please reconsider. Well, you got your wish, Mr. Saban. Net worth of $3 billion. By the way, Biden did several fundraisers in this guy's home in February in Northern California, I believe it was. Saban not only is donating millions of dollars to Biden and other Democrats, he's helping Biden raise millions and millions of dollars from other rich fucks. It's not just Saban. You got Jeffrey Katzenberg. He's the former head of DreamWorks Animation. I believe he's worth $900 million, so almost a billionaire. Just happened to have given Young Turks $20 million, but that's another story. I don't know what the hell they did with it. No, that's another story. He is a co-chair of Biden's campaign, and he is helping Biden's campaign fundraise. So after Mr. Saban, slap on the wrist, reprimanded his employee, President Biden, Biden reversed himself faster than Michael Jackson moonwalked. Hold on. Going to be closer to 540. It's just unbelievable. But it gets better. And I'm a little late on this because I wasn't live last week, but I want to address it. It's not just Biden being bought off. Holy cow. New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Because when I say we, John Farina has been doing God's work. John has been out there covering the protests, the ceasefire protests. He's covered over 50 protests since October 7th. He's been out there in New York. He's been out there in D.C. He's been out there in the morning. He's been out there at night. He's been out there till 2, 3 in the morning. God, I don't know how he hasn't been arrested yet because they're arresting journalists, but he has been doing God's work. He's been live sometimes for 3, 4 hours and then stayed after to record footage. But he's been showing you the escalated militarized terrorism coming from the NYPD. And now we know why. Business titans privately urged New York City mayor to use the police, i.e. unleash the hounds on Columbia protesters. That would be the students expressing their First Amendment rights that apparently is not protected anymore in America. Read you some of this. A group of billionaires and business titans working to shape U.S. public opinion of the war in Gaza privately pressed New York City's mayor last month to send police to disperse pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University, according to communications obtained by the Washington Post. Business executives, including Kind Snack Company founder Daniel Lubetsky, hedge fund manager Daniel Loeb, billionaire Len Blavatnik, and real estate investor Joseph Sitt, held a Zoom call on April 26th with Mayor Eric Adams, about a week after the mayor first sent New York police to Columbia campus. A log of chat messages shows. During the call, some attendees discussed making political donations to Adams. You know how I say we live in the United Corporations of America and our system is one of legalized bribery? Hey, while I'm on this Zoom call, how about getting rid of those pesky hippie pro-Palestinians on Columbia? Hey, I could make you a nice donation. As well as how the chat's group members could pressure Columbia's president and trustees to permit the mayor to send police to the campus to handle protesters, according to the chat messages. One member of the WhatsApp group told the Post he donated $2,100, the maximum legal limit, to Adams that month. Some members also offered to pay for private investigators to assist New York police in handling the protests. Because, the New York City Police Department doesn't have enough money. The budget is just $5.8 billion. Not enough. They need private billionaires to help them with private investigators because almost $6 billion budget is not enough for the SEAL Team 6 that is the NYPD. So some members also to pay for private investigators to assist New York police in handling the protest. The chat log shows an offer of a member of the group reported in the chat, and Adams accepted. The messages describing the call with Adams were around thousands logged in WhatsApp chat among some of the nation's most prominent business leaders and financiers, including former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz, Dell founder and CEO Michael Dell, hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, and Joshua Kushner, founder of Thrive Capital and brother of Jared Kushner, former President Trump's son-in-law. Wow. Listen, elephant in the room. And again, I don't believe it's anti-Semitic to point out the obvious. A lot of these billionaires and millionaires offering bribes to New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who, by the way, needs money to defend himself against an FBI investigation for accepting bribes. If you live in New York, you probably know about that. They happen to be Jewish. Sorry, it's not anti-Semitic. That's just where the money's coming from. Now, there's plenty of rich people in America that are pro-Israel and are not Jewish. There's plenty of rich people in America that are super duper pro-Israel and aren't Jewish. So it's not just a Jewish thing, but when we're looking at some of Biden's biggest donors, when we're looking at the list I just read you of people that were in a private WhatsApp chat with a public servant, he's supposed to be a public servant, but clearly he's serving the rich, Eric Adams. Most of those names I just read you that were in that private chat were wealthy, wealthy Jewish people. And I say that as a Jew. Corrupt. And boy, did they get their wish. Colin, let's show the Columbia clip. This was outside. John got this footage. And again, if you're new to Status Coup, we are the only outlet that has been out there over 50. We've covered over 50 protests live, and it's expensive to do it. But we've stayed on it, and John has done amazing work so we can show you what is happening, because these are historic protests, in my opinion, and the NYPD is out of fucking control. Let's show you what they did. Not to students. This was outside Columbia, just to people, bystanders who were out there supporting the students.
What the fuck are you Why are you doing this to me? Free college. I'm just standing here. Why are you doing this to me? What are you doing? For what reason? I'm just standing on the sidewalk. What's wrong with you? What the fuck is the reason? Why are you doing this to me? I was literally just standing here. What the fuck are you doing?
Untense yourself.
I'm stuck. You're not. Let me get my. Damn it, you're so
So there is your money for health care in New York. There is your money for education in New York. There is your money for actual garbage service that works. Because if you're going around New York City, God, the piles of garbage that are piling up constantly. There's all your money for actually things that living, working people need, to a literally militarized terrorist force, the NYPD. And it goes across the board. It's white cops, black cops. They're all out of their fucking mind. These are the high school bullies in the locker room that were either taking something or just had way too much testosterone and anger with guns. That's who those are. And it gets worse. This weekend, these weren't the student protests because Eric Adams basically gave the wealthy people paying them off what they wanted. He shut down all the encampments in New York City. I think there's one left. We covered all the student encampments. John did great work, but there's still ongoing protests. John covered one in Brooklyn on Saturday. Tell me if this looks like there any justification for these arrests or the violence perpetrated against these protesters. Actually, tell me if there's any rhyme or reason to why these people were arrested in the first place. This is our footage that we got thanks to John.
Guys, they bloodied his face. I'm calm. You guys back up, back
up. What's all this that about we're fighting for democracy in this election? There's your democracy. Cops literally yanking people at random. There was no actual legitimate reason to arrest any of those people. And my cameraman was there. I was not, but I trust him because he was there. They're literally moving to the sidewalk. The cops are actively and intentionally instigating violence. They're just pulling people by the neck down to the ground and arresting them at random. You saw one cop literally punching in a defenseless protester's chest. You saw another cop shove a woman wearing a keffiyeh. And obviously, whatever they were doing to that man that they were punching, they also bloodied his face. These people don't have guns. People don't have knives. They're just chanting Free Palestine. Even if you don't agree with that, even if you're super duper pro-Israel and want them off the streets, we're supposed to be a democracy. They're supposed to be able to go around the streets and chant their opinions and chant whatever is part of their movement. Oh my God, could you imagine the meltdown that would happen among the right wing if there was a pro-gun rally or a pro-life rally and police treated pro-life or pro-gun protesters that way? Oh my God, the Republicans in Congress would be calling for legislation in 2 minutes. This is what's going on. And you have to think that there's some shadow strings being pulled here by wealthy, wealthy billionaires. That Mayor Eric Adams, that Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republican speaker who came out to these protests and chided the students for dare protesting against Israel, that President Biden, whose campaign is on life support and solely being served by wealthy Zionists. You have to think that it's not really the politicians making these decisions. It's the United Corporations of America. I don't have that flag for effect. It's not for drama. It's not to be cute. It's because our government no longer exists. We don't have a functioning government, which you'll also see with the next story we're about to cover. We just have a multi-trillion-dollar shadow government filled with wealthy plutocrats, their corporations that they own, foundations, fake nonprofits, fake NGOs. Well, they're real nonprofits, but for fake purposes. And they're all just in one big cabal to crush dissent, to keep us in perpetual war that we shouldn't be in, so that Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all the rest of them can make as much money as humanly possible. And innocent people could die so that the capitalist engines keep going. It's a disgrace. Before I get to my next topic and guest, I want to do a direct shout out. Over this weekend, we started a fundraiser. You probably got emails if you are on our email list or a Status Coup member. Bottom line, and to be direct, and the glasses are coming off, we're in a tough spot financially. It's not because of any one thing. It's a lot of things. There's a lot of outlets right now that are in a tough spot. I'm sure you're getting a gazillion fundraising emails. I don't like doing fundraising emails. I don't, if you watch us, we don't do them often, but when we have to, we have to. I'll be as specific as I can. Bottom line, within the last 2 months, through an issue we had with our website and loss in revenue from a larger outlet that was helping us with funding, we were getting $1,000 from a larger outlet in funding help. That was pulled, which is what it is. But $1,000 a month for us is crucial. That's not a small amount to lose. And then we had a website glitch and almost 300 paying members. This was for our old membership website. So when we started in 2018, we started with an older website that had some glitches. About 3 years ago, we started a new member website. So if you've signed up as a member within the last 2-3 years, you probably weren't affected. But our old member website, we still had members still on that site. And we've been trying to move them to our new site. It's been tough to get everyone to move over to our new member site. But the old member site, we still had members. Through a glitch, 300 payments stopped going through. Nothing like, there's no issue with your data or your financial information. It was all safe. But it all stopped going through. And we can't manually re-sign people up. They have to re-sign people up. So, in a nutshell, between the loss of $1,000 a month that we were getting from a larger outlet and that tech glitch, we are down about $3,000 a month. It's not, things happen. We are independent media for a reason. It's an uphill climb. It's a battle to fund, just keeping the lights on, because we don't have funding from a large corporation. And with all due respect to all the other outlets that are begging you for money, and there's a lot of them, I would humbly and kindly say we need, and I would also say deserve, your help. Not that other outlets don't serve a purpose, but there is no other outlet doing what we're doing. There is no other outlet in the trenches, on the ground, from covering these pro-Palestine protests to being in East Palestine to being in Flint. I'm going to the Cornell West rally tomorrow. We're going to be covering that live in New York City, so I will be out there. It starts at 6 o'clock Eastern, so we'll be live from the Cornell West rally. If Jill Stein starts doing events that we could get to, we'll go cover that. We got a lot of other things we want to cover. Not to mention, we don't just talk. We walk the walk. I have been to Flint 21 times, most of those with Status Coup. We have been to East Palestine 6 times, 5 with Lewis, 1 with me. We've been down to Atlanta over the last year, twice, covering the Cop City protests. We've done economic reporting tours across the Midwest. The list is too long, okay? There is no other outlet on the ground like we are, and to do it, it costs a lot of money. Just one trip with myself and a cameraman costs us at minimum $3,000. And unfortunately, YouTube doesn't want to recommend our content. YouTube doesn't want to share our content. They don't want to elevate our content. So often when we're on the road, like we were just on the road recently in West Virginia, for example, covering another water crisis that the media is ignoring, we were going live, if we were lucky, to 100 people. We lost on that one trip probably $3,000 because we didn't gain any members. We didn't gain any paid members. We didn't gain, got some donations, but not enough. Well, you don't have to be a mathematician or a business genius. If you're losing thousands of dollars on each trip, you're not going to be able to go on, because I got to pay myself, Colin, John, freelancers, and a lot of other fixed costs. So I will ask you directly, if you are a Status Coup member already, thank you. If you could give a little bit more, you could donate. StatusCoup.com/donate. If you are not yet, and with the donation, you could donate a one-time donation, or you could donate, set it for a monthly donation. Whatever you could do, one-time, recurring, whatever you could do, StatusCoup.com/donate. If you are not yet a Status Coup member, I need you, and I'm begging you, please sign up. All I need from you is $5 a month. And with all due respect to all the other outlets asking you for money, all of them are sitting in a studio bloviating out of their assholes. We're out there on the ground. I bloviate sometimes out of my asshole too, but I'm also on the ground. And we're not just on the ground covering the local PTA meeting. We're covering important shit that the media has covered up, like Flint and East Palestine. So join us. $5 a month. That's all I'm asking. I'm pretty sure there is something in your life that you spend $5 on a week or a month that you do not 100% need, that could be redistributed to becoming a member at Status Coup. If we get 100 new paying members, that will go a long way to closing the gap of the revenue we just lost. I'm trying to raise $50,000 by the end of summer. It's going to be an uphill climb. Through the weekend, we raised $1,400 after starting this fundraiser. So thank you to all those. We're going to keep going with this fundraiser. Please sign up as a member. Please donate if you can. And you will be getting emails, to push this. Also, if you're not on our Substack list yet, get on our Substack email for free. statuscoup.substack.com. Or is it, I don't know what it is, Colin. Could you put it up? statuscoup.substack.com. That's the money part of the program. Please support us if you can. I'll read the super chats at the end. Now I want to move on. As important as what's going on in Gaza is, and we've covered it, I think, perhaps more than anyone, particularly on the ground, we cannot lose sight of the slow-moving genocide happening here in America. And I do not use the word genocide lightly, but I believe what's going on in Flint is a genocide, and I believe what's going on in East Palestine is a genocide, and I think it's a cover-up, a massive cover-up. Before I bring on my next guest, if you missed the interview I did on Friday, I interviewed a EPA whistleblower. He has done work for the EPA for decades, and he has blown the whistle on highly suspect things that have happened after that train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. Colin, let's play a couple clips. The stories that came out this week on what you're revealing, it's not only that the flight was delayed when the Aspect plane flew over. Can you describe? Apparently, the chemical sensors were turned off at some points.
Yes, at some points it was turned off. We never heard of that as scientists. It was turned off going up the creeks. Little Beaver Creek, when we were scanning that, they turned off the chemical sensors. We have not heard from EPA as to why that happened. We did ask them on a Teams call during the event, like, do you really want to, with a question, do you really want to do that, turn off the sensors while we're going up Beaver Creek? They did consider that a photo reconnaissance mission and not a chemical priority, but there were millions of gallons going into the river. I question that.
But we do know that the program director for EPA did instruct the contractor that was operating the aircraft to turn off the sensors over all the creeks. And we also do.
Joining me now is Stella Gamble. She is an East Palestine resident there with her husband, her grandkids. I've interviewed you before. Unfortunately, you've been sick. Your granddaughter has been having seizures. She was healthy before all this happened. Other people in your family are suffering. You're a pretty straightforward person from what I've gathered. Does it make any sense to you why a state-of-the-art plane that was used after 9/11 to detect chemicals, why not only did they turn off the sensors flying over the creeks, which were contaminated with vinyl chloride and other chemicals, they delayed flying over East Palestine by 4 days, when the normal response would be to get that plane up within a few hours?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, because the whole thing has been covered up since day one. The EPA and Norfolk Southern have worked together, and they have covered up this whole thing from day one. It's been covered. We're going through the settlement that Norfolk Southern offered the residents, the $600 million. And one of the clauses in the settlement that you have to sign in order to receive any money states that you are also forfeiting the right to sue the EPA. The EPA is supposed to be watching over Norfolk Southern, and they have never done that. From day one, they've let Norfolk Southern hire their own contractors. They've let Norfolk Southern make all the plans, and they've covered it up.
It's truly unbelievable because there's a lot more people than this one gentleman who's blowing the whistle.
There's
Credit to him. He used to work for the Defense Department. He used to work for the government. Then he was a contractor. He developed this technology for this plane that has state-of-the-art sensors. They could detect, I believe, 100 chemicals. He said 180 flights he did with this plane. He's never seen anything like the response after the East Palestine derailment. Go ahead.
And to question the what he says, what would be his motivation for coming out with these facts if they weren't the absolute truth? The EPA has come back and said, well, it was because of the weather. There was too much ice. They didn't want the plane to get iced over. This area is right next to the Pittsburgh airport. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of planes fly over here every day. There was not one flight canceled that day. And even if that were a fact, what was the reasoning for turning off the monitors? They're absolutely involved in a cover-up for Norfolk Southern, and just like I've repeated 1,000 times before, it all goes back to the money. That's exactly where it goes back to.
I want to play this other clip again. This is a longtime EPA contractor who was involved with the response to the Norfolk Southern derailment. He's saying that they delayed flying this plane over for 4 days. That means they did not fly the plane over that could detect chemicals the day after the derailment, 2 days after the derailment, 3 days after the derailment. Any time before they detonated the cars, they did not fly this plane over. Why that's so critical? I mean, the rail cars carrying vinyl chloride over 100,000 gallons were on fire for 3 days and then blown up on February 6th over not just East Palestine, but this went into Pennsylvania, all over the place. And that was the time when you would be able to detect the full accurate levels of vinyl chloride and other things so that the residents have the information of what they were exposed to. It doesn't mean they could reverse it, but at least fully know. I want to play this other clip.
I have 40 years experience. The other guys have over 30 years experience.
In your total service, specifically dealing with this plane and this, chemical disasters, have you ever seen a response like this that has so many abnormalities?
No, I've never seen anything run this with this many questionable decisions. It's mind-boggling.
too, I want to say, bear in mind too, that the program director for EPA Aspect in a Teams call told the contractors to keep the words East Palestine out of its emails.
So that was another thing. An EPA official said, keep East Palestine out of emails so that if freedom of information requests were put forward for East Palestine, they wouldn't be able to get those emails because they don't have the word East Palestine in. I mean, you can't get any more obvious of a cover-up. Here we are, all-day coverage of Trump's trials, all-day, hyperventilation on TV news about democracy. You got a multi-billion-dollar railroad company chemically nuked flyover country. I mean, that's what they consider this, flyover country, intentionally and unnecessarily. We've reported they didn't need to blow up those cars. And now, with the help of the federal government, they're just sweeping the whole thing under the rug. And you could share, people are getting sick all over town.
And who governs the EPA? Who's going to do anything about it? That's my question. Okay, so we blatantly caught them. This wasn't the first time. They've lied and covered up from day one. Who governs them? The politicians that Norfolk Southern pays. It's crazy to me. We have come up with hard facts and evidence that there are still people being poisoned with chemicals. Actually, the EPA just admitted they found another pocket of vinyl chloride behind the ChemFab building this week. There's people that have bought the $10,000 canisters to put in their house, and they have found vinyl chloride amongst many, many other chemicals. But the problem is nobody's going to do anything about it. Nobody governs the EPA. Who's their boss?
Well, technically Joe Biden.
Right. Oh, and Joe Biden's, we know what he's going to do. He's going to do absolutely zero. And nobody's going to do anything about it. They had decided to sacrifice this whole town and all the people in the surrounding areas, all the poor Appalachian people in the surrounding areas. They decided at the beginning of this that they would sacrifice us and our future generations and our kids, that they would sacrifice all of that for money so that the railroad could keep on going and wouldn't have to stop long enough to unload those tanks. And the EPA, we're right there beside you, buddy. We'll help you sweep them under the rocks. And that's exactly what they're doing.
And for those that don't know, because the media stopped covering this, and they never really were covering this part of it. I mean, I walked into your house, lovely house. Within 2 minutes, I had a splitting headache. I don't get headaches. Fortunately, I just don't get headaches. I had a massive headache. And then we had to turn off your air purifier and the fan because we couldn't do the interview. It was buzzing. And when we turned off the fan and the air purifier, my headache went to I felt delirious, which is clear signs that there's chemicals in your home that are causing me to have a headache. You're sick. Your husband's getting headaches. Your poor granddaughter, 18 years old, we interviewed her. It's up on the channel. She was perfectly healthy before this. For those people that don't know now, can you share what she's been going through?
Oh, she was 18 years old. She started having seizures. She went, when the ambulance came to pick her up, her mother said that she thought that it was the chemicals. And the ambulance drivers, they laughed at her when they got to the hospital. They kind of made a joke about it being the chemicals. She was in the hospital for a week, and they did all the traditional testing, didn't want to hear anything about any chemicals, couldn't find anything. So they sent her home on seizure medication, and then they had to come to our home and wire her head all up again, more EEGs. And, that now they want her to go to Cleveland Clinic for a week, but nobody will, if you say the word chemical, you get laughed at. They're not allowed. The hospitals absolutely refuse to address anything if you say anything about chemicals at all, they will not address it. They just absolutely refuse. So we have all these little kids, 8 kids in one day having nosebleeds at the school. Well, all kids get nosebleeds, not 8 of them in a little tiny school like this. 3 people in one day going to the clinic down here, and they had to call the ambulance and have them taken to the hospital with strokes. This is not a coincidence. It's not just my house. We have people who drive through downtown with their windows down and get dizzy and get headaches and so on. This whole town, and they've covered the whole thing up. And even when we discovered the facts, even when we dig hard enough, or somebody's willing to become a whistleblower, it doesn't seem to make one bit of difference. It just nobody cares. There hasn't been anything on the national news about the whistleblower, that blew the whistle on the EPA. Nobody cares. And nobody can do anything about it. We can't do a thing. That's the worst part, is there's nothing we can do about it.
Because, like, for those who say leave, because we get a lot of people will leave, it ain't so easy to leave. You gonna buy Stella's contaminated home?
Right. Yeah, and even like them blowing up the cars. They had one car in question that the EPA, they all came up with a plan to blow up this one car. The next day they decided to blow up 5. Well, the EPA said, well, we didn't know anything about that. Okay. So if they blew it up and you didn't know anything about it, shouldn't somebody be held accountable for that? Shouldn't there be charges filed, criminal charges filed on somebody?
Well, I think
you blew up 3 tanks of poison in your backyard, and there would be criminal charges filed.
I think there's another thing I want to bring up. I'm glad you said that. This whistleblower also explained, in normal circumstances, because Norfolk Southern, after this train derailed, they claim the reason they blew up these cars was there was a risk of an uncontrolled explosion. Well, this plane that they did not fly over East Palestine for 4 days, and the EPA is the one that puts out this plane. This plane, more than any firefighter or anybody on the ground, would have state-of-the-art ability to see what the temperatures of those cars were, because it's really the temperatures of the cars that dictate whether there's going to be an explosion or not. And the NTSB chair, she testified weeks ago that the cars, including that one car that they all said they were concerned was going to explode, they were cooling. They were going down at the time that they blew them up. The 4 other cars they blew up with toxic vinyl chloride, which, by the way, exposure to vinyl chloride is linked to leukemia, brain cancer, breast cancer, miscarriages, a lot of terrible things. And unfortunately, we're already seeing cancers in East Palestine. A man in Western PA, about 2 miles from this, double breast cancer. He got 6 months after that. Breast cancer in men is fairly rare. Well, vinyl chloride causes breast cancer, and a man had to get a double mastectomy. There's other people getting cancer. I've spoken with women. Their menstrual cycles are messed up. Not to mention, obviously that affects reproduction. Strokes are on the rise. Seizures like your granddaughter's having. I mean, this is an open catastrophe zone that I spoke with chemical experts who said these folks should have been evacuated 15 months ago, and they still should be evacuated. But if you go to East Palestine, I could tell you why I'm asking you to sign up and join us. It's one thing for me to speak to these people. It's another thing for me to go. I went and I got sick, not a year ago, 3 weeks ago. I not only in your home, but I did an interview in Chrissy Ferguson's front porch. She lives over one of these contaminated creeks. I mean, my eyes were heavy, bad headache. My eyes were itchy. There's people living on that block. I get to go home. They don't.
The CDC came to help us. They brought 12 people here. They were here for 3 days and 6 of them got sick. So they packed up and went home, and we never heard another word from them until they came to tell us that 4 months later, they had a little meeting and told everybody that they couldn't treat the chemicals. They didn't know how to, they didn't know how to detect or treat the chemicals, but if we kept track of it, they could certainly cure the cancer. So, they came here, got sick, and left. I thought the CDC was supposed to come here and help. It's like a nightmare. They declared that it was safe to come back here in town after they blew all this stuff up within 48 hours. And then when we asked them about test results, well, these test results take months. How did they get the test results in 48 hours that said it was safe for us to come back in? They had one car that was ever in jeopardy. And like you said, it ended up cooling down. But you know how long it would have taken them to transfer and drain all those cars? They'd have had to have that railroad shut down for probably a week or so to get that done. And there was no way they were letting that happen. It's all about, it goes back to the money. It goes back to the crooked politicians. It goes back, if you Google, excuse me, if you Google the EPA and lies, I did it. I got 7 pages of things that they've been involved in, lawsuits, cover-ups. This isn't their first cover-up. And in all those cases, there's been no ramifications for it. If you can keep on doing this stuff and there's no ramifications, you don't have to answer to anybody, why not?
And I will say, and I'm sure you would agree, why this should be important to everyone watching. I mean, obviously, as human beings, we care because we care about people. I'm sure you didn't think this was going to happen to your town. I mean, this could happen anywhere. Anywhere.
Oh, absolutely. In one form or another, it's happening in other places. It just doesn't hit the media. It wasn't a big explosion, but there's chemicals leaking all over the place. There's pollution going on, and the EPA is covering up all that, just like they're covering up the stuff that's going on in East Palestine.
And I want to remind people, if you don't know, your husband, when we interviewed him, he was at a conference. The former vice president, Al Gore, was there. They got to talking. Al Gore said this is a criminal cover-up.
Right.
Well, why isn't Al Gore on CNN calling for a criminal investigation into Norfolk Southern? And by the way, where is your senators? Senator J.D. Vance seems to have time to go to court to support Donald Trump. Where is he responding to this EPA whistleblower? Where is Senator Sherrod Brown up for re-election? I haven't heard anything from them about the EPA whistleblower. I haven't heard anything from them after the NTSB chair said Norfolk Southern intentionally hid from Governor DeWine that the owner of the chemical car companies on the ground was advising them not to blow up these cars. When they made the recommendation to your governor, we need to detonate these cars, they left out that the experts were telling us not to do it. I don't know.
Where's the accountability? What did the governor do when he found out? What exactly did the governor do when he found out they withheld information from him?
Nothing.
Right. And that's exactly what happens every time that we prove that they're when they tested our homes, they used the wrong equipment and they didn't test properly. That's when people have independent studies done and find out there's still vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride only has a life in the air of a day and a half. There was somebody last week who they found vinyl chloride on their front porch. It's coming from somewhere. Who's held? There has been no accountability for anything that we have found. The EPA, it's psychosomatic. You people suffered a lot of stress, and your illnesses are probably from stress. You know what? I'm almost 70 years old, and believe me, I lived a life clear full of stress, and never, ever one time did it give me leg cramps or make me run in and out of the bathroom or make me feel like I was high. it's just insane that this can go on and nobody will do anything. And who's going to do it?
Well, mental health issues or stress does not cause nosebleeds. It does not cause you to poop blood. I talked to residents who have
Right.
pooping blood. It does not cause rashes. It does not cause seizures, strokes, cancers. So that is beyond gaslighting. That's just evil to say that.
The whole thing's evil.
Yeah.
That you can take human beings and sacrifice human beings. And that is exactly what they're doing to us. And not only are they sacrificing us, they're sacrificing our children. And they're sacrificing my grandchildren. It's not just the people that are here now. This is generations to come. God knows, in 10 years from now, I'll be 80. In 10 years from now, my littlest granddaughter will be 14 years old. They'll be 28 years old, 24 years old. That's when they expect the brunt of the cancers to hit. It's just ludicrous to think that this is the United States of America. And, it doesn't make any difference if we're Republicans or we're Democrats. That's totally irrelevant in the whole thing. We're United States citizens. How does this happen without anybody doing anything about it?
And I will say what you just said, I believe. I've covered a lot of environmental disasters. I have never seen a company settle in a year. No. And I think they're settling so quickly for far too little, by the way. This should be in the billions because they know there's going to be a massive surge in cancer, unfortunately. And they want to settle now for as little as they can so they don't have to pay for all that later.
And they're covering the EPA in their lawsuit. How does that even make sense? How does that make sense if that's part of their lawsuit? Well, if you accept this lawsuit money, you can't sue the EPA. Doesn't that tell you, hey, the EPA's been covering up for us, so we want to cover their ass too?
Well, guess what? The EPA, 10 years later, still will not acknowledge fault for the Flint water crisis, even though they were in on it and they were at fault as well. And they have not settled. That's Obama's EPA did not settle with the citizens of Flint. Trump's EPA didn't, and Biden's EPA. They won't even acknowledge fault 10 years later. So a lot of people think the EPA went to shit suddenly under Trump. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. The one thing I agree with RFK on, and very few things I agree with that man on, these regulatory agencies have all been captured. They are not regulating the environment, health, food. They are serving the corporate interests we technically have regulations. We had regulations in 2008 that could have stopped the financial collapse. They're not being enforced because the regulators have been captured. I've talked to people off the record from the EPA that are very good people and are sick over how corrupt their agency is, but they can't do anything. Something's got to be done because you cannot have sacrifice zones all over America where people are just poisoned. And if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're poisoned. And then you're told, don't believe your rashes. Don't believe your bloody noses. Don't believe your seizures, your strokes, your cancers. It's in your mind. No, that is not any country I'd want to live in. Your final thoughts.
Something has to be done. You're absolutely right. Something has to be done. That my question is, who's going to do it? Who is going to do it? Our whole country, our whole government, our whole political system is bought and paid for. They are bought and paid for. They're all in somebody's pocket. There is no justice in this country anymore. There's no we the people anymore. It's them and us. It's the rich and the poor. When I was a kid, my dad and his friends used to say, one day this country is going to come of the rich and the poor. There'll be no middle class. And we used to think, these old guys are just bullshitting, whatever. But that's pretty much where we are now. and it's going to get nothing but worse. It's you know, the money has taken over this whole country. There used to be a crooked politician, you know, maybe 2 in 10. Now, if you're not a crooked politician, you don't get to be a politician. If you don't have the money to buy your way in, or somebody doesn't need something from you and willing to pay, you know, everybody says, oh, well, change politicians, elect somebody else. Does it really make any difference? You know, who it is? If they're going to get a position in government, somebody's pay their way in to get there.
Well, I can't move mountains, but I could keep paying attention to this and spotlighting it. So I'll stay on it. I'm going to have to come back for a longer trip. We will stay on this because I still think, I don't care if it's East Palestine, Flint, it doesn't matter. Bottom line is, you know, sometimes you get what you deserve, but sometimes you're just innocent victims. These people didn't cause this. And in a sane system where we print money for war, we spend God knows how many trillions for other countries. If people are hurt, intentionally or not, by their government, they need to be then made whole by their government. You guys need full free health care for the rest of your lives, full free medical testing for the rest of your lives, permanent relocation for those who want to relocate, paid for by the government, by Norfolk Southern. I don't really care who's going to pay for it. It should be Norfolk Southern, but the government should step in and relocate, because there's a lot of people who want to move and get their families to safety, but they can't afford to do it. And that's not right. So we will stay on it. Thank you for joining us again.
Okay. Thank you so much for keeping on this story. We certainly appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, yeah, you don't see this in the news, but, you know, unfortunately in America, mass shootings, maybe the media will cover it for a day or two and then you move on. I don't even know how many more East Palestinians there are, because there are derailments, but I mean, they literally just detonated 5 cars of toxic cancer-causing gases over this small town. It's also making people sick in Western Pennsylvania. I had emails as far as New Hampshire and Canada with people telling me they were getting sick from God knows what was coming out of the sky. And news doesn't cover it. It just gets normalized. We will cover it. We will stay on it. I hope it's not a Flint situation where we have to stay on it for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. I hope it's rectified before then, but we will stay in it, stay on it as long as we need to. But we need your help, because these aren't the sexy stories. These are not the stories that get millions of views on YouTube, but these are the stories that matter. Please, if you can, 16 cents a day. $5 a month is 16 cents a day. You could also join us at $10 a month, $20 a month, or $179 annually. StatusCoup.com/join. We are doing our monthly members call. Hint, hint. Our monthly members call that we do. We used to do it through Zoom. Now we do it through a different kind of similar to Zoom. Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. So put that in your calendar if you're a Status Coup member. If you're a member through our website, you'll get the link you'll get an email with the link about a half hour before the call. If you're a member through YouTube, you'll get a link through YouTube community posting. And if you're a Patreon, you'll get the link also through Patreon. But we usually send out the link about a half hour before the call. We're doing it at 7:30 Eastern time on Thursday night this week. Members call. Be there, be square. Might have some exciting news too. Also, tomorrow night, we will be live. I will be live from presidential candidate Cornel West is holding a rally in New York City. It starts at, I think the rally starts at 5:30 with music, but the speakers start at 6 o'clock. Obviously, he'll be speaking. I hope to be able to interview him tomorrow, but I will be there. He just made the ballot in North Carolina today. So he is on the ballot in 6 other states and now North Carolina, and they are trying to get on more ballots. So I will be on the ground. We will cover that rally live tomorrow night in New York City. Let me read some super chats here. Tony, member for 26th month. Jordan, great Ben Burgess interview. Thank you. I was on Ben Burgess's show last week to talk about the documentary we just did on Flint. Adria, a member for 14 months. Thanks for staying on East Palestine, Assange, and Flint. Thank you. You can watch my interview I did with Kevin Gotstola earlier this morning on the Assange being granted an appeal, which is big news. Tony gifted 1 Status Coup membership. Thank you, Tony. Christina, $49.99. Thank you so much. So happy to see you ranting in front of your camera again. Happy to be ranting. I've been busy, even not being live, but I am happy to be ranting again. Thank you so much for the $49.99. Very generous. Tony, $2. TYT led me to you. Just saying. I do appreciate that. I've always said I appreciate the opportunity I had there at TYT. Philip became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Philip. We really am happy to have you. We need more of you. Philip, $2. I don't get why NYPD hate our U.S. Constitution. They're not there to protect the Constitution. They're there to back the blue. Thin, what do they call? Blue line, thin blue line. Teresa, $75. John Farina, cameraman extraordinaire. He is an extraordinaire, and he's been doing great work. I'll be with him tomorrow covering the Cornell West rally. Elizabeth, $50. Status Coup heroes. Why, thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. Sega, $5. Super sticker. Thank you. Paula, $20 super sticker. Thank you so much. So is Life. Sue Life gifted a YouTube membership. Thank you. Gunnar, 1950, $5. Love this channel. Love you back. Tracy became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Tracy. Mark just became a YouTube member. Thank you. Nadia, USA, a member for 4 months. The USA was never a democracy. Day one, it was just plutocrats insulating their seized native land and slaves from UK treaties and court decisions. 100% evil. Preach. Couldn't agree more. That's why I just don't even read these bullshit emails anymore. Our democracy is at risk. Please. I wish we had a democracy to be at risk. Jordan donated $50. Not me. Another Jordan through our website. That's statuscoup.com/donate. Appreciate the super chats. If that's what you want to do, feel free. But we ask of you, if you're going to donate, we'd rather you do it through our website than super chats, because YouTube takes 30% of your super chat money, whereas our website, we get most of it. Jordan donated $50. Masi donated $100. Thank you so much, Masi. He said, thank you for your all-important coverage. I do watch you, and you are appreciated. Pam donated $25 through our website. And we got a new member to our website, Veronica. Also, if you're going to become a member, if you want to do it through YouTube, that's fine. But we prefer if you do it through our website, because on YouTube, we don't have access to your email. If you sign up to our website, we get access to your email. Thank you so much for watching. Again, we'll be back here tomorrow covering the Cornell West rally live. It starts at 6. We'll probably go live a little bit before 6 o'clock Eastern. Sign up to our Substack so you get emails when we're going live and other updates. You could join our Substack for free. That's statuscoup.substack.com. And we'll be live from the Cornell West rally tomorrow night in New York City. Have a good night.